Hello folks, this coming week sees the launch of patch 12.05. Yes, it really has been nearly 8 weeks since the expansion launched already. This new patch is surprisingly large for a minor patch, similar in scope in fact to the enormous patch 11.15, albeit this time around time gating is, at least so far, nowhere to be seen. So let's take a look at all that shiny new content and of course the all important rewards. Starting off with those Void Assaults. Void Assaults is a new rolling open world event, which alternates between Eversong Woods and Zulaman, and it has two components, Void Strikes and Void Incursions. Void Strikes are little fill the bar open world events, with progress shared between everyone in the area, and they have a passing similarity with the Runestone events from Eversong Woods, though these new versions are a lot more varied mechanically. Completing a Void Strike grants a small reward chest with some currency, more than that in a moment, along with zone-wide progression towards unlocking the main Void Incursion. The Void Incursion itself and its progress bar is visible on the main map. Once the bar is full, the incursion will start. The incursion itself is essentially a larger version of a Void Strike, and it ends with a mini-boss encounter. Once that is over, a brand new incursion to unlock will spawn and the cycle will start afresh. Now, the main point of doing these assaults is to gather the new event currency called Field Accolades. This currency can be spent at vendors in Silvermoon, and both the currency and its rewards are shared with the next event I'm going to cover. Ritual sites are very similar to Delves as solo or 2 to 5 man instances, albeit this time around Valera isn't coming along to help you. There are two of these sites, a Naga-themed one set in Eversong Woods and a Twilight Cultist themed one in Zulaman, and just like Delves, both of these give you a mini scenario with a few objectives followed by an end boss. There are 5 difficulty tiers that you can progressively unlock, and one thing that is a little different to Delves is that on the higher tiers 3 to 5, the extra affix-like challenges can be chosen by you. Some of those choices are unlocked by default, but others you'll need to unlock by doing the ritual site content. For example, you may get a pop-up quest during one of your ritual runs, which you can complete to unlock a fresh challenge. The ritual sites event also has a new progression track, which very much reminds me of the Delver's Journey, and this unlocks a bunch of extra things such as treasures that you can find within the event and even a new travel system. But let's get on to the rest of those rewards. The main reward from both Void Assaults and Ritual Sites is the new Field Accolade currency. This new currency is spent at vendors in Silvermoon on champion or heroic gear and weapon chests or on Transmog chests. And yes, that does mean that heroic gear is going to be farmable from open world content in the next patch. These chests are unfortunately RNG, but it does appear that the Transmog chests do have dupe protection, so you will be able to collect full sets of Transmog by opening multiple chests without having to worry about getting saddled with lots of annoying dupes. Now, originally in the PTR, this was looking like it was going to be a pretty major grind, but in the most recent PTR build, the cost of those Transmog chests have been massively reduced, meaning that they're looking a lot more accessible, and it's good to see Blizzard avoiding that pattern of early War Within of having to panic nerf requirements post-release. The third activity is called Abyss Anglers. This is a little solo vehicle-based activity. You start it on an island off the coast of Zulaman, and it puts you in a diving suit with a limited supply of oxygen, which when it runs out will kick you out of the activity. The goal of the activity itself is basically to hunt down fish and use your spear ability to catch them. This is made a bit more challenging by most of the fish being covered with armor scales, which you have to knock off with your spear before you can actually manage to capture them proper. You can also collect points by fishing in special bubbles, which are similar to those void bubbles in Void Storm, swimming through little schools of fish, catching various non-fish creatures, or opening treasures. And I even found a rare that requires an awful lot of hits with your spear to defeat. Reward-wise, those points that you collect are then turned into a new currency called Angler's Pearl, which you can then use to purchase extra bonuses and abilities to enable you to increase the length of your dives and to expand your capabilities. In addition to that, there are of course plenty of new cosmetic rewards, including Transmog and housing decor. There is also an option to purchase a maximum of 3 fused vitality, which is that item that you need to get epic crafting equipment. That 3 does seem to be a hard limit though, so this isn't going to be a real alternative to abundance. Now, if you're wondering about any new mount rewards, then ritual sites do offer 5 mounts. The Void Corrupted Hex Eagle comes from the Zulaman ritual site on level 2 or higher. Just watch out for a big rune in the ground and then look for a little candle nearby. Put that candle in the rune and the eagle will spawn, and defeating it will give you the mount. Also from the Zulaman site is the Witherbark Warbear Mother. For this you need to take 6 practically pork, which you can either farm up or get in the auction house, and take it into a tier 2 site. Look for a lost bear cub and give it one of the pieces of pork. This will reward you with a brand new pet called Chubs. Now look for a meat pile, summon Chubs, and the bear mount will spawn for you. Defeat it and it will become neutral. Give it the remaining pork and profit. The Void Touch Snapdragon comes from the Eversong Woods event in any difficulty and requires you to find some washed up kelp mini treasures. There will usually be several of these in the run. Looting these will cause ads to spawn, along with a very rare chance of the Snapdragon itself spawning. If it does spawn, just defeat it and you'll get the mount. On top of all of that, there's also a new Void Touch Hawkstrider that you can purchase from the vendor in Silvermoon when you reach rank 8 on the new Renown track. And finally, there's also a brand new leatherworking mount, the Void Corrupted Link. For this, you need to get your ritual site Renown up to rank 8, after which you can then run any ritual site at tier 5 and you'll get the recipe for the mount along with a broken Link's leash from the end chest. This recipe is bind on equip, so it can be bought and sold in the auction house, and you'll be able to send it over to a leatherworking alt if you have one, or sell it on the auction house for some gold. Now the mount itself along with that leash are bind and pick up, so they cannot be sold on the auction house, but you can request the mount via crafting orders. Obviously, if you do have a leatherworking alt, that will be a lot cheaper, but you will very likely find plenty of people willing to do it for you for a fee. The final event though is a little bit different, and that's called Decor Duel. This involves 2 teams of 5 players each, and you'll be able to queue up for the event via the PvP tab in-game. And yes, that does mean that this new event is technically PvP. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture any video footage of the new event, as when I tried, I ended up waiting for over 90 minutes in a queue without the group filling up on the PTR. But I am sure that the queue times on the live game will be far shorter, probably only a couple of minutes. Decor Duel is a prop hunt type event. If you're not familiar with prop hunt, it's basically a group hide and seek, which in the case of Decor Duel will be subject to a 3-minute timer. The hiders get to disguise themselves as decor items and then hide out in plain sight in Silvermoon. The skill here is to find places where your chosen decor appears to blend in and look like it was always meant to be there. The Seekers then have to hunt the hiders down. Seekers get abilities that allow them to dispel hiders' disguises and mark them on the map to make it easier to find. And you'll be offered 3 different sets of abilities to choose from. To make the event a little bit more challenging for the hiders, those hiders will occasionally whistle very loudly, providing an audio cue for Seekers. And if the hiders stay still for far too long, they'll start to accumulate flies, which will kinda give the game away. Hiders also get a bunch of customizable abilities to help them hide more effectively, including decor whistles, traps for Seekers, or setting out decoys to distract the Seeker's attention. As you can probably imagine, housing decor features very heavily in the rewards for this event, but there are also some transmog options and even a bee mount, the Breaker Bee. These are all purchased from vendors from the event using a new currency called Illusory Coin, which is awarded for both winning and participation. As I understand it, Blizzard are planning to make this an evergreen event, with new rewards being added in every major content patch in Midnight. These new events though are not the only things we can can expect from this patch. I suspect that many of you have been busy contributing to Decimus's mysterious Void Forge, and in patch 12.05 you'll get to find out what all that effort has been for, which is a brand new way to boost our seasonal gear progression. With the completion of the Void Forge in the new patch, Decimus will start transmuting void energy into nebulous void cores, which is a brand new bonus roll system that we'll be able to purchase using gold, voidlight, mal, or all of those veteran Dawn crests that we currently have no use for. Similar to the bonus roll systems of the past, we'll be given the option to spend our bonus rolls after defeating raid bosses, completing Mythic Plus dungeons, bountiful delves, or nightmare prey hunts to obtain a random item of loot based on our loot specialization and the activity we just did. And yes, that does mean that an item is going to be guaranteed this time around, so no risk of getting that annoying consolation gold. And that's not the only improvement with the new bonus roll system. As with previous bonus roll systems, the pool of items that you can possibly get is linked to the content you do. So raid bosses will give you an item from the raid bosses loot pool, mythic dungeons from the dungeon pool, and so on. But once you receive an item from this system, it is going to be removed from the bonus roll loot pool. So for example, if you're chasing a trinket from Windrunner Spire, but you get a waste item instead, the next time you roll in Windrunner Spire, that waste item cannot possibly drop, which will slightly increase the chances of you getting that trinket. And that does mean that if you spend enough rolls, you will eventually get to the point of a 100% chance of getting your trinket. On top of that, there is another bit of really good news for Mythic Plus players. The level of the items you'll get from the bonus roll are going to be equivalent to the Great Vault rewards instead of the end of dungeon reward. So if you use a bonus roll on a plus 10 Mythic Plus dungeon, you're going to be getting a Myth Track item. And with 2 bonus rolls available a week, that means that Mythic Plus players can potentially get a total of 3 Myth Track items every week, 2 from the rolls and 1 from the vault. And with the roll system adding a ton of targetability to Myth Track gear, this is a level of acquisition that we Mythic Plus players just haven't experienced up till now. The news for raiders though isn't quite as good, as due to raid gear already being very targetable, bonus roll on a raid boss is going to cost you both of your bonus roll tokens, so raiders will only be able to get 1 roll a week. Now overall, this new system is obviously a lot more exciting for Mythic Plus players. Getting 3 Myth Track items a week is going to be a bit of a game changer progress wise for sure, and if you both raid and do Mythic Plus, I suspect that most people will still want to use the 2 rolls on Mythic Plus. That said, Mythic raiders who already get access to more Myth Track gear might well be tempted to focus instead on some specific items such as trinkets from the raid. And that's not the only thing that the Void Forge is going to have to offer. Once the bonus roll system is up and running, we'll then start helping Decimus to create a new item called an Ascendant Nilhammer. Most likely that will require similar weekly quests to what we've seen with the Void Forge, and my guess is it'll be quite a few weeks before it will be fully ready. But once it is done, we'll then start acquiring some new items called Ascendant Void Cores, and we'll be able to use these to boost the item level of max rank, hero, myth, or crafted weapons and trinkets to even higher item levels. As I already mentioned, we don't know how long it's going to be before we'll fully unlock that. My own personal guess is it's likely to be around week 11 or 12 of the season, when traditionally the crest cap is removed. And we also don't know how high the item level of the new items will end up going to. One area of criticism from higher level Mythic Plus players is the large gap in rewards between the current Keystone Legend mount, which requires doing a mix of plus 12 and plus 13 keys, and the 0.1% end of season title. And Blizzard has some brand new additions just for that group of players. Reaching a Mythic Plus score of 3,400 will now award a new achievement Keystone Myth, and this will award a Time Lost Saddle, which, similar to the PvP Vicious Saddles, can be used to purchase a mount from the pool of older Mythic Plus mounts from Keystone Master and Keystone Legend. and this pool will be expanded in future to include any future additions to the PvP mount offerings. And for players who push even higher, there's going to be a new end of season 1% Umbral Champion achievement, which will also award a brand new mount. It's currently unclear if this mount will be added to the Keystone Myth mount pool in future. In previous seasons, 3400 was very close to that 1% cutoff, so this new reward setup does suggest that Blizzard are expecting the difficulty level of reaching 3400 to be quite a bit lower than we are used to from those previous seasons. And there's also some really good news on the Mythic Plus tanking front. Midnight introduced a brand new tank-specific positive affix called Lindorme's Guidance that for keys up to Mythic Plus 5 makes groups of ad packs glow. These glowing ads provide a visual recommended route for tank pulls through the dungeon, with these packs getting a 5% damage and health debuff to boot. Starting with patch 12.05, tanks will now be offered the option to enable this glow in keys of any difficulty level before the dungeon starts. However, for keys over plus 5, this will not be accompanied with that damage and health debuff. Learning routes is one of the major barriers to entry for new tanks in Mythic Plus, and with tank shortages, especially in the Pug world, being a major factor in both long wait times to form groups and difficulty in even getting invited as a DPS, anything that can make tanking in Mythic Plus more attractive to more players is very likely to offer a major quality of life boost for players of all roles in Mythic Plus. Now, for more casual players, housing is also getting a raft of little tweaks. Now, these were not testable on the PTR, so again, there's no footage, but players who leave or are kicked from a guild will now immediately lose their guild housing, albeit the content of the house will still be packed up ready for them to use when they find a new home. This process will result in them receiving an eviction notice, which I think is pretty harsh, but at least you'll know what's going on with the house if you do get kicked. And we can also expect to see a bunch of new little tweaks to the housing exterior editor, such as a warning if editing a house's appearance would affect any decor that we've attached to the house, along with options to show or hide decor, and thankfully, editing a house is no longer going to cause its position or rotation to be reset. Now, there are a bunch of other little quality of life changes for housing as well, such as better error messages and links to decor items in chat when we get new items. And there's also some improvements to how dyed items are going to be grouped in the decor catalogue. Overall, there are far too many to list everything one by one, so feel free to pause the video and take a look at the full list now. The new Transmog system is also getting a bit of iteration, with the addition of new items to allow us to control how our weapons appear when they are sheathed. This will allow us, with some restrictions, to choose between back or belt sheathing. Or most interesting of all to me, there's also the option to completely hide our weapons. That latter option is going to be very useful for people who like casual or town gear transmogs, especially when we're inside our homes. I mean, who wants to risk ruining our brand new sofa or bed with that razor sharp dangling sword? And finally, there are a couple of other nice quality of life items that I do want to cover. The first of those is that most in-game food items, instead of just giving a fixed amount of health and sometimes mana, will now restore a percentage of your total health or mana instead. This means that most food will now automatically scale to match your character's health and mana pools. Something that will make a lot of older foodstuffs feel a lot more relevant than they currently do. Now, we do of course also have access to the new recuperate ability, which means that we don't really need food to restore our health anymore, but healers do still need mana, and this will certainly increase the options that they have, while also helping to make that holiday food especially feel a lot more relevant. Although that said, there are some very strange exceptions to this rule, such as the food from the Harvest Festival event, which on the PTR is still awarding a fixed 7 health. The other quality of life change is to the in-game damage meter, which is getting a brand new maximise and minimise option. This causes the meter to roll up into just the title bar, which will be very handy if we need it to temporarily take up a bit less space. And that's it for the major features of the brand new patch. as you can see, this patch has rather a lot of content for a minor patch. But the big question is, what do I think of it all? Now, I actually enjoyed the new open world events on the PTR quite a bit. The rolling nature of the Void Assaults avoids that problem with scheduled events, where they end up feeling like the game is telling you when and when not to play. And if you like battling through a zone with a crowd of players without having to actually group up with them, I think this will be right up your alley. And if you like delves, then you're probably going to have a blast in ritual sites, as they do offer a nice alternative to running a delve. And Abyss Anglers has a novelty factor that makes it quite a bit of fun, at least for a little bit of time. I also really like the way that Void Assaults and Ritual Sites are sharing the same rewards, as that does make it feel like we have a genuine choice of which we want to concentrate on in order to get our rewards. Now, I don't think that any of these events are intended to last us for the entirety of the expansion though. Abyss Anglers does have a fairly limited reward pool, and Ritual Sites Journey Track does offer a very natural endpoint, and we already know of course that Void Assaults are going to be getting another update in patch 11.07, but personally I think that that's no bad thing for a minor patch. Decor Duel is something that I think that some players are going to love, but others are going to loathe in equal measure. If you're a fan of casual PvP or just enjoy grouping up with friends or guildies in Discord to do something together, this is going to be right up your alley. But if you have social anxiety or just want some personal time, it's probably not going to be quite so appealing. Obviously, that will suck a bit for some completionists, and I've no doubt that this is going to blow up the forums and social media. But if every bit of content was made to be okay for every single player, the end result would be an awful lot of slop. And slop is definitely not what we're getting in this new patch. For more competitive players, the new bonus roll and gear upgrade systems are obviously a bit of an experiment by Blizzard, and it does remain to be seen how that's going to play out. For myself, as a Mythic Plus player whose usual goal is to get a Myth Track Priest for most, if not all, of my gear slots, that ability to get 3 Myth Track items a week does open up the possibility of hitting my goals much more reliably and early enough to be able to enjoy them. Thanks to an unprecedented streak of luck in the War Within Season 3, I managed to hit my goal just as patch 11.27 was releasing, and I love being able to take a break from the treadmill to enjoy other content and yes, even other games. But at the same time, I do know that a lot of other players have very different goals, and there is already feedback out there about the gearing system in Midnight feeling a bit too fast for many, so I guess time is going to tell on how this will play out in practice. There is though one thing that I do think is missing from the new patch, and that's any extension of the current housing levels. Quite a lot of people are now at the max rank of 9, and I'm sure I'm not the only person for whom the housing endeavour progression system is starting to feel a bit stale already. And if that system is not to lose momentum entirely, I really do think that the track does need an extension sooner rather than later. With housing being turned off on the PTR, it is still very possible that there is an extension planned for 12.05, but with no announcement from Blizzard or even any data mine signs, I am a little bit worried about this aspect of housing. And on that subject, Blizzard, when are we going to get some more Endeavour options? Overall, I think that this patch has the potential to be a contender for the title of the best minor patch ever, but that's going to require the dev team to land the patch on the live servers, without the level of game-breaking bugs that we've experienced in many of the recent minor patches in Dragonflight and the War Within. The new patch's release doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be good enough, and that simply hasn't been the case for quite a few of the minor patches over the last few years. My feedback to the WoW dev team is that you have created for yourselves an opportunity to land an absolute banger of a release. But if Void Assaults land with the kind of zone-wide server lag that was allowed to go on for far too long at the start of Midnight, or we get broken spawns or missing rewards or any of the other major issues that we players have seen far too often of late, then that opportunity will be squandered. But what about all of you? Which of these new activities will you be focusing on first? Are you excited for Decor Duel or just want that sweet Myth Track gear? Comment down below. If you found this preview helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos along with my other content, then hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. If you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me on social media for updates, but links in the description below as well. I have started streaming on Twitch on Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays, and you'll find a link to my channel below, and I hope you'll be able to join me on my journey of exploration through Midnight. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.